the quarter. Welcome everybody to this session with Devin Stubblefield. Devin has been working with our association and with our parents for a long time, like almost 10 years, I think. And we bring Devin back all the time because he is the best financial literacy trainer and one of the best people I know. So I'm going to let him take it away to describe this session. All of this recording and Devin has materials that will be available to you later as well. And so all of that will be available to you later if you want to get a refresher. And you can put questions in the chat and I will be relaying questions both from the Whova chat and from the Zoom chat, because now we have both operating simultaneously just to confuse me a little bit more. So let's go, Devin.
Thank you, Katie. It is so good to be back with you all. I'm just thrilled at being here at this conference at this time of the year, and it's great. And so today we are going to be talking about family financial wellness, during and after the COVID-19. And I know that's kind of a big topic for everyone. It's on top of mind for a lot of people. And we're just going to have a discussion today about that. So just bear with me as I get my screen going here. And if you don't mind, if you can type in the chat, if you can see the PowerPoint, then just say, yes, I could see it. Totally good. I'm glad you guys are just here ready to engage. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Derry. And it's good to see some familiar faces. Oh my goodness, this is so cool. Look, just Sonia and Linnea and some of you, it's just amazing to see you guys. All right, so can everyone hear me?
Can I just interrupt for one second? Damaris, can you go down to the bottom of your screen and select, and any of you, if you have trouble hearing, you might need to select your language. So go down to the bottom of your screen and select English or Spanish, and then mute original audio. And if that doesn't work, then don't press mute original audio, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, please do that. Y si hay otras personas que necesitan interpretación simultánea, hay que hacer clic en el botón que dice interpretación abajo y seleccione su idioma y después silenciar audio original. All right, sorry.
No, all good. Totally fine. All right, everybody. I'm so glad. But here's what we're going to be talking about today. We're gonna talk about these 4 things. We're going to talk about defining moments that changes everything. And I think you guys, everybody has a version of that, right? Then financial wellness checkup, we'll talk about how we can do that. And then specifically, we're going to get into the 4 elements of personal financial well-being. And I believe that as you all are thinking about these kinds of things and talking with families and parents about this, it's really, really going to be, I believe, something very special for them once we put it in the context of which we're going to be learning today. And then we're going to talk about how do you maintain it. So, we don't know when things are going to happen unexpectedly, but the point is that we could totally get ourselves in a position where we can actually try to do our best to kind of maintain our lifestyles in the manner that which we want. And so here we go. And again, just want to say thank you to everybody. And by the way, feel free to comment or put questions in the chat as we go. And those of you who are on the Whova app, I know Katie's monitoring that. And so if you have something that you want to contribute or say, then I'm sure she'll let me know. So thank you so much. Okay, so first things first, okay? I want you to think about 2020, and I want you to type first word that came to your mind in the chat. The first word when you think about 2020. Go ahead, just put it in the chat, whatever it is. Yeah, Ashley says, ugh. Teresa, COVID. Vanessa, craziness. COVID, grr, yeah. Chaos, right, end times, yeah, isolated, yeah. 2020 obviously created all kinds of emotions for all of us. Hard times, unexpected, stress, all of that. Yes, it did. And so what we're doing right now, everyone, we're trying to figure out, well, how do we get up from here, right? How do we go forward? How do we make things better or to adjust ourselves to our new reality? And quite frankly, I don't even know if we'll ever go back to the way things were. I don't think anybody really knows. But here's something that I thought was very interesting. So when we talk about the pandemic, it's being compared to the Great Depression of 1929 in terms of the impact. And when we talk about like the economic recovery curve, back in 1929, when that thing happened, the Great Depression, it took 10 years for the economy to bounce back and everybody felt like, okay, we're back to a place of normal. But last year, different story. Nobody knows, nobody has any idea how long it's going to take for us to really recover. Now, if you notice, the bottom part of the screen talks about unemployment rates. Back then, it was 24.9%. Last year, 14.7%. And to put that into perspective, there was about 40 million people that were out of work last year based on COVID. Not to mention the millions of business owners who had to shut down and they couldn't do things. And what about the Uber drivers and some of the other freelance type of workers who are doing things on the side? I mean, things just kind of got crazy. And so here's what I want you to think about when we talk about family financial wellness. First of all, these are defining moments. And, you know, we had one of these. I know I'm going to use myself as an example. We had a defining moment. You know, this was a while ago. This didn't happen during COVID, but it happened some years ago. But our father passed away. Okay. And it was totally unexpected. And we were not prepared for that to happen. We didn't have adequate life insurance to offset the financial loss. And it was my mother. Had two brothers and a sister, and we lived in Olympia. So some of you that are in Thurston County, familiar with that area. And it was absolutely insane how unprepared we were for the unexpected. And we did not know how to continue with our lifestyle in the way that it was. I mean, we just didn't know. And I imagine that many people from 2020 had the same kind of thing where they didn't expect it, right? And maybe they had loss of loved ones, loss of life. And maybe people had gotten sick and had incurred a lot of bills and things like that. So it was tough. And so what I want to say for just right now is just think about a defining moment that happened in 2020 for you and your family, or the families that you talk to and work with. It's really, really, really unique to each individual. And so I just want you to keep that in mind as we talk about these things today, because I want you to really think about everybody processes differently. Everybody sees their world differently than others. I mean, it's just all these different things that occur in how we perceive them, how we respond to them, and that sort of thing. What I'm going to do with our time together today is I'm going to give you some generalities around financial wellness and how we can really use some of these things that I'm going to share with you to help families, help ourselves to really anchor again and to really start to move forward. Because anything can change a family's trajectory, anything. One event can totally change the outlook, the progress, the goals, the hopes, the dreams, the ambitions of people. Anything can change a family's trajectory. Okay, so that's our reality. And we are vulnerable. Human beings, we can't control a lot of stuff. Things we can't control, we just have to work with and deal with. And so think about that. How can we help people that are reeling from this change of their financial trajectory? And what can we do to even have a conversation about that? Now, things happen that we have to pay for. I think everyone inherently knows this. But look on the left side of the screen, and it's talking about universal experiences. These are things that happen to almost everyone. We all have these things where we transition from infancy to adulthood, our needs, wants, obligations that cost money, right? Just being alive actually puts us in that category. The middle category is about the expected or recurring things that happen to many of us, but at different points in life. There are times when people go to college right out of high school. There are others that go to college later on in life. Then, of course, getting a job happens all throughout life. Then paying taxes, having kids. These are things that happen, again, based on different points of our lives. But then there is the unexpected, which is on the right side, things that may or may not happen, but if they do, there is a financial impact, such as losing a job, getting sick, okay, caring for aging family members, or the death of a loved one. So all of these things are happening even without the pandemic, right? The pandemic didn't create these kinds of scenarios. These scenarios already existed. The pandemic just seems to kind of amplify things or make things more challenging. So now, with that being said, I want you to think about this, and I want everyone, if you can, to put this in the chat. I want you to think about financial wellness and whatever that means to you. I'd like for you to put that in the chat. And it doesn't have to be a lot, just could be a couple of words or a phrase, but what are the characteristics of financial wellness in your opinion? If you had to think about, well, how can I be financially well? How would you describe that? So take a moment to do that. Gonna need someone to translate some of the Spanish speakers that's writing in the chat so I know what that means. So thank you for that.
That meant security.
There he says, not to feel the weight of how I'm going to pay for things on my mind all the time. Yeah. Destiny, not stressing about meeting basic needs. Yes. Not having to live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. Ease, having funds left over, saving money. Yeah. Yeah. Not feeling stress, balance, and abundance. Yeah, we have all these things. And thank you guys for doing that. Security, thank you, thank you. So here's the thing. When you're talking to families and even other people, it's like, let them define what financial wellness means to them. Now, of course, we can think of it in terms of, okay, income, expenses, make sure we have enough to cover everything, but it's much more than that. And so that's what we're going to explore today. And thank you. So here is a definition. Now, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau puts out this definition of financial well-being, and it's the state of feeling secure in your finances. And looking in the chat, as we heard from Raina and others, we're talking about security. We heard security a few times today. And so think about how you feel. Now, if you feel great about your finances, and maybe income maybe isn't all that important, because if you're making enough money to cover what you need to do, your family is taken care of, it's all good. Because we learn how to be content. And so what I want you to think about is, what is that feeling that's going to make you feel secure in your finances? Or what is that feeling that would make that family feel secure, that parent feel secure, that grandmother feel secure in their finances? Then we have financial capability. Financial capability now is, we're taking it one step further. We're talking about knowledge, skills, access to services, and to manage and leverage our financial resources effectively. So in other words, we're talking about, are you capable, financially capable, to do the things that your family needs, to do the things that is going to be important to you? So we're talking about these things around getting financially capable. But here's the thing. You first must be financially well in your mind. You've got to feel secure. You got to feel comfortable. You got to feel like things are going in the right direction, and that's going to help increase your financial capability. It goes hand in hand. So what I'm sharing with you right now is a way that you can do a personal financial wellness check. And by the way, the link that I gave you goes to a Google Drive folder that has these handouts and the slides. You can get those later, but I'll share with you what they are now. So first of all, let's look at this. So when we do a financial wellness check, what are we really doing? We're looking at, okay, we're checking our own feelings. Either we're feeling hurt or like, when we get hurt, we say, ow, right? If we stub our toe, we say, ow. If we bump our elbow, we say, ow. It's like, ouch, but we say, ow. And then there's the wow, which is the greater feeling, like, yeah, this is good. So the ow is the negative part where people are feeling dissatisfied, frustrated, anxious, uncertain about the financial future. And that kind of brings a negative feeling. But then there is the positive side, the wow, where we're feeling inspired, motivated, we're excited about our future financial possibilities, and things are looking up. So what we have to think about is how can we help each other make the shift from ow to wow? And that's really what we want to do. And again, not so much emphasizing on the amounts of money or the things, it's more or less the feeling. How can we make this shift in our minds so that we feel better about what we're doing? So moving from ow to wow. How many of you can relate to the ow? Right? You've had some ow experiences from 2020, in terms of from a financial perspective. I remember myself, you guys know me, so those of you who've seen me come here before know that this is what I do. And all of a sudden last March, I had a full schedule for the remainder of the year that just totally got cut off. So I found myself not having the ability to go out and work, doing my training right after everything got shut down. And that was a major adjustment for me. So that was an ow for me for a while. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back a little couple slides. So that was my experience. You guys may have your other experiences, what you felt last year was an ow. Some people have more bills that they ever had before. Maybe being home might have driven up your utilities, right? You're using more water, using more electricity. I mean, things all kind of reacted to the situation. But here's the first thing I want to share with you. It's a self-assessment. Now you have this, again, it's really designed to give you an opportunity to think about what you know in terms of, from a financial perspective, how you feel, and then what your experiences are. This is a totally reflective exercise to give you an opportunity just to touch base with yourself, just say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I know. This is my experience. And now you have a way that now you can start to think about what to do next. But first, identifying what you know, how you feel, and your experiences. So you have that. I encourage all of you to take that assessment. It's really simple. You just print it out and just do it. You can do it right on your computer or however you want to do it. But the point is, it's really, really, really an eye opener once you get it done. And then for those of you that are visual, there's this tool as well. It's called My Money Picture. And some of you who may prefer this over the first one, but here's what happens. And this is also included in your handout. It allows you to look at each of these categories. And I want you to take a look at what's here. The icons, we've got housing, we got entertainment, we got groceries, donations, eating out, personal care, pets, childcare. So what you're gonna do is place a check on any area of your life you feel good about, and then circle any area of your life you feel concerned about. Because all of these things that are on here cost money. All of these things could be a recurring expense in your life. Now notice there are two boxes. One says other, there's two circles there, you see that? So the point is that what we have is an opportunity, if you or the family member that you're working with, your parent, has a category that's not represented on this, and you just simply write it in. But the key is to think about how many areas you're feeling good about financially, how many areas are you concerned about. Exactly just like that. That is the whole point of doing this. It's a visual way to do this. Now, here's what's interesting. Once you determine that the things that you feel good about, then you can kind of say, okay, in terms of these particular areas, I feel well in these areas. The other areas where you feel concerned about, then maybe those are the areas that you want to start planning on focusing on to get better. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So if we want to get to a state of financial wellness where you feel secure, remember it's about feelings. We have to first assess. So that's why I gave you these tools. I want you to assess how you're feeling financially, but then we got to get into action. We have to change what's not working. So if something's happening that is contributing to the hardship, got to change it. But if there are things that are happening that's kind of making things get better, we want to do more of that. That is really what we want to do. So we want to assess first, change what's not working, and do more of what is working. So when we talk about assessing how you feel financially, and let me say this, I know that this kind of goes way back for some people, because maybe how you feel financially might have started back when you were younger, when you were growing up, maybe at home with your family, and things happened, or you had experiences, or you learned things. So you kind of get a financial paradigm, you get a financial perspective based on your life experiences. And by the way, let me just say this now, session 3, when we come back and we talk about the color of money, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about how we all have financial sentiments and how that comes out and how that's expressed in our day-to-day lives. So if you can come to session 3, you'll get way more on that. It's a really cool topic. Now, here it is. So we're assessing how we feel. And let me say this to everyone, don't get bummed out if you're not feeling great about your financial situation. And I also want you to communicate that to parents that you may be talking to, because it's not about judgment here. It's about being in touch with reality. Because one of the things that I learned a long time ago, and I kind of live by this, what gets measured gets improved. So if you're measuring how you feel financially and think about what it means, then you have an opportunity to improve it. But if we don't measure it, if we don't assess it, and we just kind of ignore it, then that's not helping. And so my suggestion is, again, those 2 tools I gave you, do that assessment, see how you're feeling. But then when we talked about doing more of what is working, we got to think about, okay, do more about what's working in my life. What's going well. You know, for those of you who do some sort of coaching, you know that one of a coaching question that you can ask, like when you're talking to someone, you could say, so what went well last week? Okay, it's a strengths-based question. And so what I'm going to ask you all to do is to even ask yourself, what's working well for me financially? And then go for it. Write down everything that's working well, or do the assessments and then really take notes on that. But then think about all the positivity that's coming out, because remember, we're trying to move from the owl to the wow. That's where we're going with this. But at the same time, I do want to acknowledge that we could all do this. And here's the question. What could you be doing more of financially that you haven't done consistently in the past? So this is really a very specific question to ask self. What could I be doing more financially that I haven't consistently done in the past? And for some people, it could be spending less money on non-essential things. Others of you, it could mean saving more money at the end of the month. Okay, so whatever it is, you want to think about what you could do more of financially that you haven't consistently done, because we want to get to the point to where we change what's not working. That's the biggest shift that we can make. Now, I do realize that there are things that are way out of our control, way out of our control. If it's out of your control, then okay, it is what it is. Let's talk about the things we can control. Okay, so we change what's not working. Here's a little something that the military does. They conduct what is known as an after-action review. So what they do, let's say they go on a mission, and then they come back and they debrief, and they say, hey, what worked well? What didn't work? What do we need to change? What do we need to do differently? And process that, so the next time they go on a similar mission, they could even have better results. I'm going to ask you to think about doing that from the financial perspective. So I want you to process and analyze things in terms of financially, what happened, why it happened, and what to do differently or better next time. Again, this is not about judgment. This is about measuring, okay? We're measuring what actually took place so that we can do something about it to get better results. I totally encourage you, if you get some time, Google this after action reviews, and you'll see all the research behind this, but it's very effective. But again, we're going to analyze what happened, why it happened, and what to do differently or better the next time. Now, when we talk about financial control, as a matter of fact, I want to thank those of you who put questions in the Hoover app and I answered all of them before I got on today, at least the ones that were there before we signed on. But here's the thing. Someone asked about, well, how do we get ahead? Another person was asking about, well, how do we really get control of things? Well, here it is. There are 4 elements of financial well-being that I want to share with you. 4 elements. Now notice we have present and we have future. Okay, so present is today, future is tomorrow and beyond. Then we have security, which everyone wants to feel secure. That was put in the chat multiple times today. Security, and then freedom of choice. So how do we merge all this together? Because if we can do this, if we have present security, that means we have control over our day-to-day, month-to-month finances. If we have future security, that means we can absorb a financial shock. If something happens, it's not going to mess us totally up. Then we have present day freedom of choice, where we can make choices to enjoy life right now. And then there's future freedom of choice, where we're on track to meet financial goals. And I'm going to break each of those down one by one and give you some practical things to do. Starting with the first one, present security. So now we're talking about how do we manage what's in front of us now? And some of you are saying, well, Devin, there's not enough money to go around, okay? And so what we have to do in those particular circumstances is think about how can we manage our finances instead of the financing managing us. How can we do that? How can we cover all of our expenses, pay our bills on time, and not to worry about having enough money to get by? Big deal here, present day security. So what I'm going to say to this is I want you to think about which of the recurring monthly expenses, your obligations, can you replace with less expensive alternatives? Now, I realize that that might not be possible for all areas, but what are some areas that you can do that? I know lots of people who have totally stopped paying for cable. They've got internet access, so they're using their apps on their phones or their tablets, and they're accessing things through the apps. And you guys know all of them, the Hulus, the Netflixes, and all those other things. And then shaving off $100 or more a month out of their budget because they're not paying for cable. So the point is, we want to think about how we can make these kinds of adjustments where we can have control. And I'm answering also, someone put this in the question box earlier on the app, on the Hoover app, and I mentioned to them that you should try to automate everything around the time that the income comes into your bank account or however you get it. If you can automate your payments to your debt, your bills, your utilities, all that, automate that stuff, then it takes it off of your mind. Because as long as your income continues every month, if that's consistent, and then you also align that with your expenses around that same time so that it happens kind of automatically, then you can take that off of your brain in terms of, the day-to-day management of your finances. Lots of people find an incredible amount of peace when they are using automation. And I'll talk about fintech in our next session, or session 2. I'm going to talk about how this is really impacting in the credit arena, where fintech is really taken over. Fintech is the merging of financial and technology. And so you have all these apps. You guys use PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. That's all financial technology. And now that's taken over. And it's really designed to help make things a lot easier. So this is how we can do this to have present day financial security. And then we've got future financial security. This is your capacity to absorb a financial shock. So here's what this is about: having a support system. Okay, we're talking about a support system of family and friends. See, don't go at this alone. And this is what you should be sharing with your parents as well. Don't do this alone. This trauma that's happening is global. Everybody is dealing with it in a particular way. And so if you encourage people to have a support system, build trust with others that we can talk to and lean on and share resources. And I know that you guys are probably already doing a lot of that. Then having a personal savings account is a lot of talk about incentivized savings programs. A lot of organizations are coming up with ways to help people to save more money. But then the third one is holding insurances of various types. I cannot emphasize the importance of making sure that you are adequately insured in every area that's appropriate for your families. Think about that. Car insurance, right? Health insurance. All those kinds of things are very important because in the absence of that, it creates a lot of debt, bills, that sort of thing. And then the ability to cope with the financial challenges of unforeseen life events. Let me share something with you that you could do. Everybody can do this.
Devin,
I want you to think about getting a piece of paper
Devin,
out and thinking about what
Devin.
were all the unexpected expenses you had in 2020. If you can remember them, what were all those unexpected expenses? Write them down. Okay.
David,
And then think about now we're only midway through, almost done with February. So we got good 10 months
Ya,
left.
ya me ve.
But here's what we can do. If you think about all the unexpected expenses that happened in 2020, and then say, okay,
Tengo
for
apagado ahorita el video por si
for
acaso.
2021, how can we prepare to, if those expenses were to happen again, how can I be better prepared for them? So basically what you're doing is you're giving yourself a forward look, not to say that you're expecting those things to happen, but what we're going to do is be better prepared if they do. And that's what that's about. So once you do that, because remember, it's about feeling. So remember, so if you're thinking about, well, if I had an unexpected car repair in 2020, then if that same type or similar repair needs to happen again, and I had to spend $300 to fix it, then how can I be better prepared for a $300 repair in 2021? And if you figure that out, that's going to help relieve your mind. And great, if it never happens, great. That means you've got that much more money available for other things. But the point is, this is how we begin to regain and maintain financial control, when we're able to be prepared for things like this. And then we have present freedom of choice. This is like every now and then, can we splurge? Everyone likes to splurge. Sometimes we like to go and get a nice dinner. Sometimes you don't want to cook. Maybe the family wants to have something else to eat that's different. Try something else and we pay for it and get it delivered in. So can we do this right now sometimes? Can we afford our wants? Okay. Can we meet all of our family financial needs? We're talking about our present freedom of choice, and then able to make choices to be generous with our friends and family in our community. That's a big one. People feel good when they're able to give to other people. And so when we're talking about financial freedom of choice to make us enjoy life, it's these simple things. If I'm able to help somebody with their groceries, and I'm able to give them $20 to help pay for their groceries, that's great. I feel good about that. If you're able to do that, you feel good about that. We feel great about helping other people. And so that's what financial freedom in present day means, that we're doing things that really gives us this feeling. Because here's the deal, folks, if we do not have this in our lives, if we don't have the ability to do the things that we feel are important to us, like caring for others, doing for others, being generous, being kind, if we're unable to do that, and I'm not talking about going out and spending a whole bunch of money on non-essentials. I'm talking about the simple things, being able to buy, 15 birthday cards for 15 of your closest friends and family members.
Devin, can you pause for just 1 second?
Yeah.
We have a few little issues with the interpretation.
Okay.
So Maricela, can you hear me?
Yes, can you tell to Maryland that she can pause? I can continue the interpretation, and just tell Maryland, Marlene not to unmute. Please.
Okay, Marilyn, Maricela is going to take over the interpretation, and Marlene, please don't take yourself off mute. You have a lot of static. So thanks everybody.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Katie, for taking care of that. All right. So again, we're talking about helping all of us to have financial freedom in present day. And that's what's going to help create and maintain those good feelings. But then going forward, we're talking about future freedom of choice. Now we're talking about being on track to meeting your financial goals. These are the things that are important to you that you're trying to accomplish. Every one of us have hopes and dreams, things that we want to accomplish financially. Some of you want to purchase a car. Some of you want to move into home ownership. Some of you want to pay off student loan debt or other debt, save for an emergency, or even start your retirement fund. These are all things that help support our future freedom of choice. And you got to have both. You got to have present day freedom of choice and future freedom of choice. This is all around this whole thing around our financial well-being. So here's what we just looked at. We looked at, again, these 4 elements: present security, future security, present freedom of choice, future freedom of choice. If we're able to do that, you're going to feel great about your finances. You're going to feel like you're in control. And again, that has nothing to do with the amount of money that you have coming in, but it has everything to do with being able to manage what you have, what you got, and making it work for your family. Now, what about maintaining all of this? Okay, so how do we maintain financial wellness? Well, here are some things that you can consider. And then, by the way, folks, I will definitely open it up for Q&A here in a few moments. So if you have any questions, you can certainly ask that. But let's talk about this. How do we obtain and maintain balance? Live within our means. And, I know that sounds very simple and very elementary, but it is. This is the formula. It's not rocket science. It's just simply making sure that we have less expenses than we have income. And then notice it says practice contentment and cut down on invisible spending. Now I'm going to say something about invisible spending. Okay. And so what is invisible spending? I'm going to tell you what invisible spending is. And here it is. You know how you do things. Let's say, for example, you're used to going on Amazon and you like to order things off Amazon, and you might do that every now and then. Well, have you thought about how many times you do that? Okay, let me highlight invisible spending here. Okay, cut down on that. So if you're finding that you're going on Amazon like as a habit and you're not really paying too much attention to it, you could probably find that you're spending a lot more money than what you probably intend, but we're doing it not really thinking. Same thing with food, same thing with any item. So here is something I want you to consider doing. Go back through your bank statements for the last 3 months. So get all your bank statements, line them up, and I want you to, I'm putting this in the chat too so you can see 3 months bank statements. And what I want you to do is take a yellow highlighter and highlight every expense that was not a necessity, whatever it is. And only you can determine what's a necessity and what's not, what's a need versus a want. That's up to you. But do that for 3 months. Go back 3 months into your bank statements. Then what I want you to do is take an average. First of all, add it up. Add up all the non-essential spending, I'm going to call it. Okay? And take an average. There you go. Now what you're going to be able to find, you're going to find how much money that you've spent really not really thinking about, just doing it on these things. And whatever your number is, whatever your average number is, then commit to yourself to saying, let's cut that down. And let's say that you found that most of your invisible spending was on food that you didn't cook at home. And let's say that you found that you're spending $150 a month on food. And you may say, hey, we could do better than that. Let's cut that down to 75 and use the other 75 to put in our savings. But what we're doing is we're making a conscious decision to improve our financial wellness by simply identifying where we're spending invisibly. Okay, so that's just something I want to share with you on that. So we can help live within our means and maintain balance. Then use credit only when you need it. And I think you all get that because, you know, credit means debt, debt means payment, payment means interest rates, interest rate means paying back way more than you borrow. And that's just the way that works. So if we can get a hold of that, that's great. Then ask questions. Think about what you don't know. So get a list of all your most pressing financial questions and then start to ask people that you trust. Ask the people at your bank or friends and family that have trusted advisors around, but get the answers to your most pressing financial questions so that you can decide what you're going to do with those answers. Because again, we're talking about financial wellness and we're doing things that's going to help us understand. And remember, we said that we have to make an assessment, understand, we need to measure things that we want to improve. So go ahead, ask the questions, find out what you need to understand. And then plan, do some planning, identify some realistic goals. Okay, and I think everyone knows this. You guys know about SMART goals and that sort of thing. But here it is. If you're able to make some good, realistic goals, you're going to feel more confident about your own ability to make a difference in your life. That's it. If we can put some goals down on paper that is attainable and that could work, absolutely, that can be all the difference in the world to helping to give you that mentality that you're in financial control. And then setting yourselves up for long-term financial success. So yeah, we made some adjustments around COVID, but what about the steps needed to put your things into action? So let's say, for example, you decide that you want to really just buckle down and just get more money saved. Let's say that's your deal. So what's going to motivate yourself to do that? Okay, so remember we talked about putting some of your expenses on auto pay. We're replacing some of our expenses with lesser expensive alternatives. We're getting peer support from our family, friends, and community to help us stay on track. But here's the thing, and this is a self-reflection. What do you have to put in place in your own life that's going to make sure, that's going to help you to stay on track to implementing your long-term financial plan? What is the thing that you need to put in place that's going to help you to stay committed to that? And that answer is going to be different for everybody. And so what I want you to do is think about that and then do it. And the final thing I'll say is let's get it started. And before we open it up for Q&A for our last 10 minutes or so of our session here, I want to share with you that there is a toolkit by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's very cool. They just updated it, and it's got a lot of the tools that I just shared with you in this presentation, in addition to a ton of other resources for you. And they even have information around COVID and how to manage finances around COVID related events. And so I give you the website there, and I just totally recommend that you do what you can to get that toolkit, reference that information, and then carry all of this forward. This is really about helping each and every one of you to, first of all, define what financial wellness means to you, and then begin to put those things in action that's really going to make it work. Okay, this is what we're talking about. So I'm gonna, at this point, we've got just about 10 minutes left. And so this is all Q&A time at this point. So I know we have folks in the app, the Hoover app. We also have you that are here with us in the Zoom. And so we're gonna manage your questions. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
So I'm going to put a question here that was in the Hoover for you, Devin, to start with. And for the interpreters, this is, what is the best way to prepare for being my parents' retirement plan when I myself am already struggling financially? I am culturally obligated to care for my financially illiterate parent.
Okay. Katie, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah, what's the best way to prepare for being my parents' retirement plan?
Okay, yeah, okay. So that's a good question. And so here's, I'm gonna give you kind of a big picture answer. So what we have to figure out, and this is for all of you, because whether it's for your parents or whether it's for yourself, it's really the same thing. Here's what we have to figure out. What is the number? How much are we saving for? So we have to identify what is the amount of money that we need for the retirement age to be comfortable. Now that number is going to be different for a lot of people. I mean, it's just different for everybody. And so a rule of thumb is this. Now I'm just going to give you a rule of thumb. There's multiple formulas out here for this, but I'm just going to give you a real simple one. If you take your current income and you take 80% of that number, typically that is a number that people would like to have available every year in their retirement. So and I'm just going to use a round example. I'm gonna get my calculator. If you're making $30,000, that's $2,500 a month. If you're making $30,000 a year, then in retirement, okay, I'm going to take 80% of that number. Then we should have in retirement, that's going to pay us $24,000 a year. That's a rough estimate. Financial advisors have these really cool calculators where they can predict what is going to be enough for you or for your parents or whoever. But the question is, once you identify what that number is that's needed, then the question is, how much time do we have before that number is needed? So the younger you are, the better, right? Because you have more time to save. But here's the thing, once you understand the number, the dollar amount that's needed in retirement, and you know the time that you're gonna have to be able to fund that retirement, now you can think about what things you need to do. For some of you, it's gonna come in the form of real estate. You'll buy homes that's gonna appreciate in value and that you can liquidate some of those real estate holdings later. Some of you are gonna be 401ks, which is retirement accounts, or 403bs, if you work for a nonprofit. And then that's going to accumulate. Some of you might be a Roth IRA or a regular IRA, which is individual retirement accounts. And some of you could be stocks and bonds or Bitcoin, right? It could be any of the above that could help fund the retirement. But the key to all of this is understanding what's the big number and how much time do we have to fund it. That's it. You figure those two things out, then the rest will come into play, because now you got to figure out, once you know those two things, now, is real estate going to get us there? Is stocks going to get us there? Is my IRA or retirement going to get us there? Or it could be a combination of all the above. So that was a great question. And I'm sorry I couldn't get more specific on the answer because it's that kind of a thing where it has to be planned out with all those factors involved. Great question.
Okay, so we have a question from Linnea, who's one of our brand new parent ambassadors this year. What are some ways that help you stay committed?
That's great. You have to find your reason why. Find your why. And let me say something about that. Each of us have values, and that's why we started out today with the feelings. How do we feel? What do we know? What do we experience? Because it's all about connecting our finances to a value. So if you say, I value financial security, again, security was one of the number one answers today, then if that's a value of yours, then what can you do to make sure that you honor that value? So are you honoring your value of financial security if you're spending more money on non-essential items than what you think you should? And so you just put yourself kind of on a program. How can I honor this value of financial security in my day-to-day life? And then be as critical of yourself as possible. So is buying this extra pair of shoes, is this helping my financial security? Run it through that test. And if you can say, yeah, it's helping me because I can look good and go get a better job. Okay, fine. If it's not helping you, then maybe you don't make that expense. Maybe you don't buy the shoes. My point is, that's how you stay committed. You tie it to a value and you commit to honoring that value every day of your life, because that's what makes us human. That's what makes us, meaningful. Cool. Awesome.
Nikki Hoven, who's a parent from Lower Columbia, I think, says, this is amazing information. We're cutting back on money spending on non-essential things as we're having our wedding next year. So saving money is huge, and this really helps.
Awesome.
That's a good why, right?
It's a good why, right? It's about your why. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, you guys.
Yeah. Other questions? After we finish here, if the interpreters can stay on, I would love to talk to you. Devin, oh, here's another question. What's the safest way to save?
Your mattress. Because that, and I really mean that. I mean, seriously.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
If you can see, touch it, feel it. Okay. Now here it is, because yeah, safest way to, because that way you're not, it's not gaining interest, but the banks are not paying much interest anyway, right? So the point is that whatever way that can help you to stay on track to save, that you don't spend it, that's going to be the safest way, because really what it's about is not eating it up while you're trying to accumulate. That's really the ultimate goal, right? Can we put it away and leave it there? Or can we put it away and not risk it being lost due to volatility in a market somewhere? So it's just really going to be about what you can the technical answer to your question would be a certificate of deposit or a bond. Bonds, Series E bonds, they still do those bonds. They do them electronically now. But the point is that you can put money into investments that do not have the volatility that stocks and mutual funds and those kinds of investment does, and then you can maintain your principal. You won't earn very much on the interest, but you certainly won't lose your principal. So, so in that regard, that would be considered safe. Great question.
All right. Nija says, how do I start one income in a 2-parent house with 2 children? I don't know what the question is embedded there, but yeah, I can feel your pain, Nija.
Yeah. Well, it's those trade-offs. And that's really, the family's got to sit down and talk about, what are we trading here? Because you got to make it work off the one income. I totally get that. That means that you're going to make some choices that might not be popular, but that's what we have to do until things change. And that in and of itself is a big deal. I realize that, but you know what? It'll be worth it. And if you can get everybody thinking that this is only temporary, this is a means to an end. We're trying to get comfortable now so that we can maintain, so that at some point in the future when things get better, we can do better. So that's it. So that was a great question. Thank you for that. I hope that helps. But that's what you have to do. You have to make an unpopular decision, I'm sure.
All right, Selena says, currently I have 10% of each of my paychecks going into my 401k. Should I start diverting some of that into a savings account?
Well, that's an opinion. I would say if you think you're going to need the money to spend, then yes, put some of it into your savings account. But if you think that you need to really put as much into your retirement as possible, then I would say no. Because think about this, every dollar that you're not saving for your retirement future is dollars that doesn't exist tomorrow. I mean, that's a harsh reality. If we're not saving it for tomorrow, it's not going to be there. If you spend it today, we might regret that tomorrow. So that's just a personal decision. If you don't need it, I would say put it in the retirement and keep it there. Let that thing accumulate, because that's going to be the most biggest asset that you have outside of your home. If you buy a home, become a homeowner, the next biggest asset is your retirement savings, and you may as well bulk it up as much as you can, if it's possible. But if you need the money, then I understand making a diversion for some of it to your savings account. I do understand that.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. And if you go on to this session on the Whova, somebody else I think just added another thing in the Q&A, and Devin actually went in and answered the first one, so he might take a look at that one. But thank you all, and it's a different link for the next one in 15 minutes, so we will see you then. And if the interpreters could stay on, I would be appreciative.
All right, thanks everybody. Hopefully you
Thank
see you in session.
you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gracias. ¿Y a qué hora regresamos?
Well, hay
Voy a
otro
checar en el correo. Muchas
enlace,
gracias.
Reina.
Buen lunch.
She would like to know what time are we coming back?
En 15 minutos. Hay otra sesión en 15 minutos, a las 11:30 hasta 12:30.
Oh, ok.
Pero
Okay.
es enlace diferente. Entonces ustedes pueden caminar y hablar con los niños y todo eso y regresar a las 11:30.
Katie, we need a break. Can you kick people off so you can talk to us?
Yeah.
Thank
I'm gonna see if I can all right.
Cancel interpretation, I think, so we can hear one another.
Just trying to
I know.
hold on.